Oh, now we're live.
We are live. Here we are. Welcome to the stream. I'm sure there's probably no one watching just yet, but welcome to the stream and welcome to the Arty Dans once again.
Thank you for having me back.
And this is a bit of an impromptu live stream about all things Halloween. And obviously we are going to be spoiling it, so bear that in mind. And if you have any questions and thoughts, obviously please chirp up in the comments. I would say this is going to be a relatively positive stream because Dan really likes it and I kind of liked it. So we're not going to be like beasting this movie too badly, but I will be putting up some points, obviously. I was kind of hoping to get someone on who was less enthused, but, you know, here we are. So Dan, give us your overall thoughts on the film.
Very positive in the fact that I think Michael is an absolute beast in the movie, and I like my slasher movie villains to be beasts. There's a couple soft bits in there, and a couple of characters that I really didn't like. And stupid me, for such a Halloween fan, I've been so out of the loop. I didn't actually realize that it was the second of a trilogy. So here's me thinking, if I was the producer, I would stop the franchise right now. That's a perfect way to end it. Michael is unkillable. He is a beast. He's pure evil. End the franchise, done and dusted. But apparently now there's going to be a third, and it's going to screw it all up. So
well, technically it's the fourth, isn't it? Because this one is technically the third in this series. So it's a quadrilogy. Let me just say this from the beginning. My kind of like, I'm not the biggest slasher fan. So if you watch my review, and I did admit this, I'm not the biggest slasher fan. I haven't seen all of the Halloween movies. I've seen, I don't even know which ones I've seen. I've seen the original. I've seen the third one, which I know isn't the Michael Myers one. I've seen H2O, and I've seen the 2018 one and this one. And I may have seen some others, but I don't remember. So, and that's true of most slasher franchises. I haven't seen all of Friday the 13th. I haven't seen all of Nightmare on Elm Street, Chucky, etc. So I'm coming at this from a horror fan, but not really a slasher fan per se. But I think I can still appreciate it. But I do think it gives me maybe a perspective where I'm not sort of like over kind of burdened with expectations, because I'm just kind of like, I'm watching it for the film that it is, rather than kind of like having all these, because there's a lot of people who really are huge fans of this franchise, and I feel the weight of expectation, is positive and negatively affecting that. So here's me coming from a very casual fan of slashers. I enjoy slashers, but they're not my favorite genre. How about you? How do you feel about slashers in general before we get into the minutiae?
Slasher was probably the first horror genre that I watched. So that, how it's always the first one of something that you watch tends to be the one that you latch onto. Even if you find another genre later down the track that you love, you always kind of have a soft spot. My soft spot is slashers, very much so.
You're probably more of a slasher fan than me then, to be honest.
Sounds like it.
Yeah. Although a lot of people don't count the original Halloween as a slasher, although I personally do, but yeah, I mean the first Halloween movie is I can appreciate it's a fantastic movie, but it's not one of my favorites personally speaking. But I can objectively say it. Obviously, it's how well made it is. So it's
iconic. The music is iconic.
It is. There are other John Carpenter films I like better than Halloween. To be honest. But yeah, I can appreciate it when it's a good film, even though it's not necessarily to my tastes. So my brief thoughts on, I have seen the 2018 one and I kind of liked it. This, to me, very briefly, I for an entertainment purposes, I thought it was, lots of bloody fun, lots of kind of inventive kills. I enjoyed the mayhem out of it. I do have some issues with it in regards to the kind of like the mayhem and stuff. I appreciated the attempt here to have a little bit of commentary on mob mentality, which we'll kind of get into, I suppose.
A little bit of commentary.
I know that because
Hit you in the face.
Part 5, and I only found out after the fact that Part 5 also had that. But so I was like, yeah, it's introducing this new element, and that apparently it hasn't. But I haven't seen Part 5. But yeah, I kind of I think this is a movie you can enjoy for a kind of a monster on the loose kind of thing, killing indiscriminately and stuff like that. The production was high quality. I thought that kind of all the kind of technical elements were there. Obviously, it's not a low budget movie; it's a studio production, so it has that crisp, and produced feel to it, which obviously stands. Because I watch so many low budget indie films. When I watch a horror film, which is, produced, so to speak, then. I could have noticed. I noticed the difference.
So it's probably what is it? This would be the second, third, fourth. If you discount the Rob Zombie films, I would say this is probably the third biggest budget Halloween, out of all the big budget ones. H2O was a big budget, or medium budget. Resurrection was probably a medium budget, but that was such a shit film. And then clearly the last one was a big budget film. This one. You can see what the studio does bring to Halloween. It is violent, and it was surprisingly violent. Even though when the title cards were coming up at the start, and I saw Miramax, I saw Blumhouse, I saw all the usual names. I saw the Malik Arkad being one of the original producers of the series. His name was attached to it. So it has the pedigree behind all the Halloween. And I think the Arkad guys, Mustafa and Mark, Mustafa's dead now. I think they have the actual naming franchise rights to Halloween as producers. So I don't think it can be like Friday the 13th, where it can just veer off into territories of having different companies starting to make it. And then you get this kind of really bad scenario like they have now with Friday the 13th. You're one up on me with Halloweens. I haven't seen 3 at all.
Oh, I really like 3. Says or something. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I haven't seen part 3 because I don't believe I need to see it as part of the franchise. If someone else is watching it who disagrees with me, I'm glad to take on that disagreement.
I mean, in theory, this discounts all of the sequels, doesn't it? I mean, including 3, which to me always took as still happening in that same universe, but it's unconnected sort of thing.
Well, it seems to discount part 2 as well, which is really odd because it shows footage from part 2. So I don't understand why it feels like part 2 doesn't belong in this film. I know it does. It's been a while since I've seen part 2, or the proper part 2. But it feels like it discounts that. I'm not too happy. You were different. You actually said that you liked the first 10 minutes and that recap of what happened back in the 70s. I wasn't a big fan because I felt that was kind of retconning some of the original lore of the movie. Like all of a sudden he's gone back to the house. He's got these police officers turn up. The other cop shoots the other cop completely by accident. Then you see at the end how they cover it all up. I don't know if I particularly like that bit, but the sequels that followed, 4, 5, 6, they added so much backstory to Michael that he didn't need. I love part 6. I'm just throwing it out there. Part 6 is one of my favorite Halloween movies of all time because I tend to have this habit of liking the bad ones. 4 and 5 are good for Danielle Harris. She's just, she's like 10 years old in those movies. So it's good to see how she was starting to develop her kind of horror persona, the 90s Linda Blair or the 80s Linda Blair, what she was trying to do. But after that first 10 minutes, I thought that's when this movie started, and it started to get really good, really good. You had an issue, and it's funny, I want to mention this. You had an issue where they all stand around and they go at him one by one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now, have you?
Twice.
It does happen twice. I can forgive the first time, though, because the first time's with the firemen, so they don't really know what they're doing, right? The second time is unforgivable. But have you seen Jason Goes to Hell?
Yes.
So then you'll remember right at the start, they do the exact same thing, except this time they all unleash on him at the same time. Do you remember?
I don't, to be honest. But I don't think you can compare it to, because Jason Goes to Hell was
a
long time ago, and it was to me the front of their 13 films were never kind of as serious. And also I think that was again, it was just kind of like the end of the series, if that makes sense. But let's talk about that fireman scene a little bit more, because I have a couple of issues with it. So my biggest one for me is, I mean, you know, all of the firemen, why would they even assume that there was, I mean, did they know it was Michael Myers? Because they just kind of coming out there, like, ready to fight. All they're seeing is a guy coming out the house with, I mean, holding something. He was holding something, wasn't he? But, you know, to me, it was like, why are they kind of getting ready to fight? I mean, why would they even fight? Because they're not like,
they're not fighters.
They're firefighters.
Yeah.
Why would they be preparing for a fight? You know, to begin with, because they're not, you know, they're not there to fight. Did they know it was Michael Myers, or did they just extend it? Just could be some dude coming out the fire who's got a messed up face, you know, could have something burnt on his face. So the whole concept of them getting ready to fight to start with was silly, and then having like them lining up one after another to basically get slaughtered by Myers, you know, and there's got he's revving up his like axle grinder and like, it's just like, oh man. You know, it's a very B movie, which I was surprised for a studio film.
Yeah, I can't explain that to you. I can't. I think it's just,
but it's just one of those things.
Yeah, I think it's always just been part of the series that you expect a little bit of ridiculousness. For example, the fact, and you again mentioned it, the fact that Michael can just teleport from him being beaten on the ground to all of a sudden behind Karen. Like, how did no one see that? And you're 100% right. How does no one see that? It's just kind of something that you live with Halloween movies, that this stuff just happens. We are never told, and I hope to God we never do get told why Michael is seemingly immortal. I don't want to know why. When my wife was sitting there,
of semi-explained it, but didn't they? With the Jamie Lee Curtis's monologue, or Laurie Strode's monologue, was going, oh, it's the evil, it's feeding him. So that's kind of almost saying like he's essentially sort of absorbing the kind of negativity. That's kind of how I took it.
Well, that's how the whole movie comes up. That when you add the mob mentality in, the whole feeding of the monster, the whole, you know, being a sheep by following the crowd, it's essentially, without being political, it's very much a mirror into American politics of 2019 when the movie was filmed. There's no doubt about it. It's no doubt about it. The screenwriter has had a political motive and has modeled certain characters around certain figures in the American political landscape.
I don't know if I agree with that, because this was made before the Capitol riots.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. But still, you know, there was that boiling tension picking up. There was a lot of that particular person movement going on in America at the time. So I feel like some of that's come across. You're right. Had it have been shot last year, then that element would have been much stronger. And look, it was delayed a year. So, you know, there was always opportunities to kind of recut the movie into bringing out those elements a bit stronger. Because as I've finding out, these big budget movies tend to shoot a lot more scenes than they ever end up using.
Yeah, apparently there was a different ending that was shot as well. With
ruined that ending.
Yeah, well apparently, I forgot. I watched the video about it, and apparently the Karen character, the daughter of Laurie Strode, does still die, but it kind of it does. Apparently, is a little bit better in regards to how that happens.
Good. I'm glad that she still dies. I know it sounds a bit nasty, but between her and her daughter, I hated her daughter. When she busts in the house, come at me, mother effer. Oh, the granddaughter, yeah. when she comes in the house, come at me, mother effer. I just like, oh, come on. I can't take you seriously. I really can't.
It's done to me as like we've got to have the youngest kind of teeny person to be the main, to be the kind of the fate of the series ultimately, kind of going forward. So we can't have someone that's middle-aged now being the kind of the face of the series. We've got to have someone who is young and attractive and all that, and like
I know, passing the mantle, passing the torch.
and there's so we've got to have Jamie Lee Curtis is the kind of the kind of the mainstay. We need the young person in to kind of be the face of the series. So let's sacrifice the middle one, the middle-aged mum, because she's like the one that is most expendable out of the three of them.
So do you see that as a metaphor for expending, like killing off 5, 6, 7?
No,
is that the metaphor?
I see it. Do you know what? This is like it's just the kind of the mechanics of making a film. So it's kind of like, okay, we need a character death which is going to be meaningful. We don't want to have it so we're torpedoing. We can't kill off the main kind of draw, star-wise, Jamie Lee Curtis, and we got three female protagonists. Jamie Lee Curtis is your headliner. The granddaughter is the kind of the young is going to appeal to that younger audience, and she's going to be the face of the franchise probably going forward. The one that is the most expendable is the middle-aged mum, Judy Greer.
Karen.
And that is she's parented enough to make an impact when she dies because she's Laurie Strode's daughter, but ultimately she's the least valuable from a business point of view for the film. Does that make sense?
Well, it does, because she always seems to put up barriers. She doesn't want her daughter to do anything. She tries to save the wrongly convicted guy. She seems to always be meddling and getting in the way. So now that we've gotten rid of her, part 3 part 4, as you say, can go insane.
I have a theory with if it goes on to Halloween, because you know how this one they made a big point of saying like, oh, Michael Myers doesn't care about you. It was just random. Do you remember that? Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a bit I love.
In the original series, it was revealed that he was the sister of Laurie Strode. And this one, they've gone to great lengths to say he's not after Laurie Strode specifically. It's just circumstance which is led him to Laurie Strode. I think in the third one, they'll change it so he actually... because the third one's going to need some type of twist. It's going to need some type of thing that adds to the story, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that they will introduce that Michael Myers, he was maybe originally he didn't care about Laurie Strode, but now he's like, right, he's showing emotion or whatever it might be, even if it's a negative emotion. I think in the next film he'll end up kind of like targeting Laurie Strode specifically, like the first time he's ever shown any type of
interest
in someone specific. And I think that so it will almost dovetail in where the series went originally, but it's gonna kind of like how this is the new thing that we're going to introduce. This one was like we're going to introduce every single minor character that was ever in. Had 2 seconds of screen time in the original movie.
Yeah,
that was the thing that they did this time. We're bringing back the nurse who was in, who Michael Myers stole the car from.
Tommy Doyle is an interesting one because it would have been better to have Paul Rudd rather than the guy who was playing it. Now, I understand Paul Rudd couldn't reprise his role at the time, but
he wasn't the character in the very first film, was he? He was in a later film.
Paul Rudd was in part 6. That was his very first ever movie.
Canon anyway, so
which is not canon, but part 6 was one of the only bits that kept that link back to the first movie by having Tommy moving in across the road from where the Strode house was. It would have been great to see Paul Rudd, but the guy that they cast instead, which looks suspiciously a bit like you, Leo, big big strong guy. Look, I liked him. What was I going to say?
Send me your email address and I'll invite you on the stream.
Yeah, that sounds great. Especially if you've got a different point than Leo and I.
Yeah. What did you think of it, Alex? If you don't want to join the stream, just let us know in the comments. But what did you think of it? Alex has just come to just beats it now. I know Alex in real life, and
beautiful. Yeah,
to see it.
No, I figured that. What was I loved those elements where it started to say, no, he doesn't care about you. He just cares about getting home. To me, that made the whole series really good, because all these people who always think that Michael is about them, he's coming after me, for the realization that Michael doesn't give a shit about any of you guys, just wants to go home. And it was the original tagline of the movie, the night he came home. I love that bit, because it just means that Jamie Lee Curtis's whole existence in the franchise, her character's existence, has been for nothing. I love it. I just think it's great.
I do quite like it. I mean, I think they are going to dovetail it in the next film to make it so he does kind of go after her specifically. But I do kind of like the fact that, in a lot of these films, like The Chosen One, it's kind of like this, and like destined to kind of like, and it's just like, no, it's just kind of pure happenstance that this has happened to you. I do quite like that, and I think it was interesting to kind of, I mean, one of the things I have an issue with this movie is it feels very much like a second act of a film. It more or less ends, the beginning of the movie. It doesn't end that, when you're in the film, the circumstances haven't really changed all that much.
It's quite long for a second act movie, though. Like 105 minutes is quite long.
It is. That's what she said.
I would have. I just got that. Had it come in at 90 minutes, that probably would have been a more suitable second act. Kind of. See, there you go. HK kicks ass. I agree. I agree. Look, there are a couple of problems with the movie Shane Dog, and most of it revolves around like Leo would say in his review, the ham-fisted way it decides to tackle certain issues in the film. Certainly, the suicide of the mental patient victim is very much mob mentality. That bit. And another thing that actually, look, again, I don't mean to make this political at all, but there's a lot of diversity casting it's a lot of diversity casting in the movie. Let's be honest, right? There's a lot of tick the box diversity casting. I don't know whether there needed to be that scene at the start with the people playing with the drone. That was pointless. That was completely pointless. The kill count was already high. He didn't really need two more. On the flip side, their deaths are quite creative. Like when he smashes
that was the one of the best scenes in the film. I personally think is the bit where he's like slumped over and he's just like constantly putting
getting different knives,
and that was just like. That was like beyond cruel, if you know what I mean. To me, that was one of the best things in the film. I have to be honest, because it just showed you like how kind of like bad he really is. Yeah.
Again, though, it was pointless. So this bit I'm going to disagree with. Right, that the whole plot of the mental patient made no sense, because the whole point of the mental patient was that. Michael, I'm assuming they're going to say that he escaped from the same asylum that Michael did, and I think it's just the whole point of the mental patient was that it's a wrongful identity that anyone who just looks like someone that you think is the person you're after is the person that you're after. I think it was the mental patient was important to kind of set up how the whole mob mentality works in the film. Without it wouldn't have worked.
I see what they were trying to do. I do think it was clumsily handled. Why was he just kind of like at this hospital? I mean, if you're a patient, I mean, I know he's going to be like not the full ticket, but are you going to go to the most crowded place in the town? I don't know. To me, it was like, oh look, let's just kind of go in there. Oh, I don't know. To me, it was kind of like again, it was like the writers needed this to happen rather than it feeling organic. I understood the kind of just kind of that like seeing red and kind of like taking the kind of like we just want to take it out on someone, and this guy is the kind of like we'll just
he's the
go with
boogeyman.
that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. To me, I had mixed feelings about it. So what did Alex? I hope the end of the third just killing each other. That's probably do you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. But then again, have they killed Laurie Strode in? They've killed her.
They faked her death
film.
in H2O.
Yeah, but then she died in Resurrection, didn't she?
Yeah, that was part of her contractual. She had to contractually appear in Resurrection, so she said she wanted to die. But again, she died in Resurrection. I don't know why the hell she would ever agree to do that film. That is a horrible Halloween film. Really horrible. I think towards the end, she starts getting very nutcase conspiracy theorist, and I actually didn't like where that conversation was going with her and the police officer in the hospital. I just thought, oh, you're starting to look like a real nut job now. This is not a good look.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, she didn't have a lot to do, did she? 101 Bronson, he's just saying,
oh, yes.
He's joining us shortly.
Beautiful.
I've sent you the link already, Jeff, so you should just click onto that and then join us when you're ready.
Looking
Alex,
forward to that.
You're still watching. Did you like it? Did you like this movie? Michael has no ties to Laurie in this trilogy. Laurie is the reason her family is put in ginger. That's fair.
Now, I'm going to go back and I'm going to be a bit revisionist, but I don't believe Michael has ever had any ties to Laurie. And I believe it's always been misinterpreted that he is her brother. It's never actually been written in law. And I think this is part of why this trilogy exists, in that they are tricking everyone into thinking this whole thing, that everyone believes that he and her are related, but they're not. There's never actually ever been a relation. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the original. There's never actually an explicit link to the two of them. Now, I might be wrong. My memory fades as I get older, but I'm pretty sure it's come out that there's never actually was a brother-sister relationship between the two of them. I
think it's generally accepted that was the case, though, wasn't it? They even made mention of they kind of referenced it in the original, like the 2018 one about. There's this rumors that they're brother and sister and all that. Kind of made reference to it. Jeff, get on the stream and then you can tell us what you think. Since the movie, Valodrome, since the movie's reviews came out, the scale of different opinions, opposite sides are extreme. And his opinion, the only Halloween movies that matter in the franchise is 1 to 4. The rest is trash. Ooh, I know.
He's including part 3 in that too.
I like part 3. I'll be with him on part 3. I wouldn't be surprised if they moved into a sort of more of an anthology. You still using the Halloween name and having it more of an anthology. To be honest with you, I saw a review once and they were sort of saying like. They reckon it's going to be like, essentially the essence of Michael Myers will kind of cause people to be evil and stuff like that.
Now, I haven't seen a lot of. I've deliberately chosen not to watch a lot of negative reviews about this film because I just mostly believe that a lot of people jump on a negative train for clicks, for hate. And they don't actually believe in their conviction. So I'd like to know from people who have watched or seen negative reviews, what are people actually saying in them that is making them feel like the movies are negative or the movie is not good? Because Michael is a beast in this movie. As a Michael Myers fan, at that 1 hour, 20-minute mark, when he starts going ballistic, when they mob him down and then he wakes up, I started cheering for Michael, and my wife turned to me. She goes, "Why are you cheering for him?" I go, "Because this is the Michael I wanted to watch. This is the Michael that is starting to just get his revenge and kill everyone because they're in his way." And I want to know, is that why people don't like it? Is because the bad guy gets his revenge because he gets back up and does the killing? Are people not understanding the Halloween franchise, and they're coming into Halloween after just watching 2018 and going, oh, well, this is just a shit horror movie because the bad guy wins. This is what I would love to know if that's what people are thinking in their reviews.
Now, just to kind of reiterate, both Dan and I didn't hate this movie. Dan really liked it, and I gave it a 6 out of 10. So I didn't love it, but I still enjoyed it. So I was actually wanting to have someone who had a bit more of a negative opinion on the stream, so we could have that kind of like that discussion. I mean, I don't know what Jeff, who is trying to get on the stream right now, is thoughts on. So maybe we'll see. But and again, I'm not a big Halloween fan necessarily, or slash fan. So we're kind of like I'm coming at this more of a general kind of horror fan rather than. And I think maybe that's possibly the reason. Is Halloween is one of those franchises which is very, very kind of adored by its fans, and I think maybe this wasn't what they wanted for whatever reason. Maybe it was too different from the original one.
And so, what did they want? Did they want to see Laurie and Michael fight? I mean, she's got a bloody stab wound in her stomach. She physically cannot move. So, what are they expecting? Like, this movie was actually, in respect, it was Halloween 2, just done better. Because it continues on directly from the end of the previous film, exactly like Halloween 2 did, continued on directly from the previous film. One thing I do want to mention to you is that you said that in your review that Donald Pleasance makes a cameo.
Yeah, I meant to say Loomis.
That's better, thank you.
It isn't Donald Pleasance. Good. And I assumed it was CGI, but it wasn't. It was
just another actor.
It was an actor with kind of prosthetics on.
Yeah.
So yes, Loomis. I misspoke. Too late at it, whatever.
Because they had his voice. It was definitely his voice when he's screaming outside. That was his voice clips from the first movie. But yeah, it was a good-looking Dr. Loomis. Very much looked like Donald Pleasance.
I thought it was pretty good, to be honest with you. And that's kind of why I like that sequence. It reminded me. It felt like, I know you weren't a big fan of it, but to me, it really felt like a kind of a 70s feel to it. Do you know what I mean? Let me just catch up with some of the comments here.
Sure. Yeah.
So, beat by Shane Dog. Halloween itself was intended to be a standalone. The Laurie Michael sibling story came in later. Indeed, it was. But obviously, it was a big success, which is why they kind of corralled Carpenter into, writing the second one.
Which has a strange hot tub scene I never understood.
Alex says she prefers the previous one, and you like the idea of them being related.
Fair enough. Yep.
And then we've got, if part 3 was titled October 31st instead of H3, it wouldn't be so disliked. You mean the original
Season of the Witch, I believe. Yeah.
I don't really understand the dislike for that movie, to be honest with you. I think it's a reasonable horror film.
I've just never seen it, so I can't comment.
It's fine. It's a fine horror film.
Donald Pleasance isn't in it, is he?
No, it's nothing to do with. Like, I mean, to me, like I've said, it always kind of like. Here we go. Jeff is joining the chat.
Here we go.
Jeff 101 Bronson.
G'day, mate. Oh, I've gone very Aussie. I'm sorry.
We have an international live stream now. So obviously, I'm from the UK. Dan is, of course, from Australia, and is it Denmark? I forgot where you're from, Jeff. Although you haven't actually heard you talk yet. Can you speak, Jeff? Let's make sure we can hear you.
The Netherlands.
Oh, the Netherlands, yes. Somewhere.
All right, mic check.
Yeah, we
mic check's good.
Oh, yes.
Video's a bit laggy, but the mic is good.
Awesome.
That's that Netherlands internet, isn't it? So.
Oh, okay.
Supposedly bad internet in Australia. So Bronson, hit us with your opinion. Jeff, sorry, hit us with your opinion.
I'm sort of mixed on this film. I mean, there was plenty of things that I liked. The kills were, for one, brilliant. I really liked the gore and everything. One thing one thing that I sort of did, they were brutal for sure. One thing that I sort of didn't like was the sort of the Michael takes on an entire group of people. I like that in concept, but the way they executed it, it was a bunky for me. That didn't work, especially towards the ending.
Well, see, this is where I'm disagreeing. I love that ending where he does take him on. I think that's terrific. I think that's very Michael Myers.
Yeah. Yeah,
What
the
did you
thing
know
with
about
me,
it
I think,
specifically,
Leo,
Jeff?
you pointed that out in your review.
Mm.
Oh,
The
yeah,
one-
well, just going to
the
say,
one-
I think you pointed that out in your review, Leo. The way that all the guys just go on him one by one instead of, like, really grouping him. If that makes sense, he does take him on. I mean, they do sort of group when he's on the ground and they beat him with the everything. He gets up, he stabs one guy, he waits for the other one, or rather to come to him, after he stabs him.
So at that scene, Leo, is where I reference Jason Goes to Hell, because what they do when they capture Jason is they form kind of like a circle or a semicircle, and they all unload at him at the same time, which is exactly what you want to see them do. You want to see multiple people attacking at the same time, but they finish him properly by blowing him up. And so that's what they don't do in Halloween. They don't decapitate Michael. And I've never understood why in 13 movies, why no one's ever decapitated him.
Yeah, even after the kind of big mob fight when Judy Greer stabs him with a pitchfork. I mean, it's like one of those things. Like, it's such a horror cliche, isn't it? Not kind of like finishing off the bad guy. You're thinking, come on, you must be you must be aware of this kind of trope now. In 2021, 19, whenever this was shot, you can't kind of like just ignore those tropes now because they're out there. People are much more aware of it, so I don't think you can kind of just kind of like, oh yeah, I'll stab him once, and I'll kind of just like, yeah, that's fine,
Especially 1 inch with a pitchfork. What's that going to do?
You can't get away with it now. I mean, you've got to write around that.
There's another issue I had with the film. So if you guys can remember, when Tommy's forming the parties that they all go out and attack Michael and find him, he keeps saying to them, let me know when you find him. Let's keep in communication. All that bullshit, right? And then one by one, they all fail to talk to Tommy. They all fail to call him. They fail to tell him where they are, and they all end up dead. And I never understood this whole element. If you're going to have Tommy, the leader, who tells them, let me know when you find him, why no one ever reports it in. It's dumb. That is dumb.
Yeah. I also think, why isn't no one until right at the very end think to go back to the Myers house? I forgot to mention that in my review. But surely if the whole town is looking for him, maybe we should check his family home. That could be one place where he's kind of going, and no one does it until we have that light bulb moment from the Strode family, basically, because that needs to be them that does it, basically.
Well, because Laurie has got the whole town convinced that he's after her. So they are protecting the hospital, thinking that the only place he's going is to kill her. So no one's actually thinking of going to the house.
Yeah, but you can look at more than one place. I mean, the whole, like you said, the whole town is there. I mean, it's not as if you can only put people in one place. Let's just send someone to check the Myers house,
By the way, those two guys are awesome. The two guys who lived in the Myers house, Big John and Little John, I actually really liked them. They were great characters.
Let me just look at some of these comments here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what was that, Jeff?
Well, you're frozen, Jeff. Oh, he's back.
Those two characters, Big John, Little John, I loved them. They were great.
They were great.
They made Michael Myers a Terminator. That's far from the original premise. The Tormentor. Michael, come on.
The Terminator.
Yeah, so I get that. Yeah, sorry, Jeff. Yep. Oh, you're doing an Arty voice.
Evil dies tonight.
Impression.
Yeah. Unloading a lot of bullets into him, it doesn't make sense. It actually doesn't make sense why he can actually handle so many bullets. But I don't want it to make sense. That's just me. I don't want it to make sense at all. I want to have something unexplained.
Evil dies tonight. Kind of awkward
that.
there in that part 3 takes place after a time jump. Yeah, apparently there's a 4-year time jump into the next.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
See,
Wow.
because I would continue the movie directly after this one.
No, it's a 4-year time jump.
Damn.
So Michael Myers, I'm assuming he's been wandering around for 4 years. I mean, I guess we'll see. But yeah.
Look, I kind of trust Danny McBride now. Strangely, for a guy who does comedy, I trusted him with the 2018, and I actually think this was decently written, except for the handful of ham-fisted bits like the mob mentality bit. So I do kind of trust that he'll wrap this trilogy up well, better than Rob Zombie ever could have. But yeah, the 4-year gap I'm not buying. Nah.
I mean, it might give them a chance to do something a little different, I'll say. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to judge a film until you see it, but I don't know. It might mean that the status quo is going to be a lot different.
Well, Laurie's going to radicalize her granddaughter. That's what's going to happen.
Possibly a reason, because obviously it gives you a reason why Laurie Strode can be at full strength. Because obviously, if it was to follow straight on, she's still going to have like life-threatening injuries, and she's not like a young woman. So you've got to be able to give Laurie Strode a reason or an excuse why she can kind of be a bit more physical, which I would imagine is part of the reason why they've kind of done it or doing a time jump, I should say.
What do you reckon, Jeff?
Yeah, that all sounds plausible. Yeah.
All right.
I mean, the time jump is going to be weird no matter what, but yeah.
Unless Michael moves into the house and he starts redecorating it. I'm just kidding.
Redecorating. H3 is a great horror movie, nothing to do with Michael Myers. Yeah, I like it. I mean, again, I think you after you do Halloween Ends. I mean, it's a franchise. You're going to put your business hat on for this one. As a company, it's an IP that Warner Brothers, or is it Warner Brothers? Yeah, is not going to want to just like, we'll just put that on the shelf now and forget about it. They're going to want to make Halloween products because you can make them. They're relatively inexpensive to make, so you could make this happens in this universe, but it's something else. You know, it could be like Michael Myers inspires a copycat killer or something like that. I believe that you'll probably see doing like a somewhat of an anthology type situation where it's maybe not directly Michael Myers, but it still takes place in that universe, like I believe the original number 3 does. You know, who knows? I mean, that's just my guess. But if you've got an IP that isn't profitable, the company's not gonna not make anything. Beat by Shane Dog. I love the Grindhouse feel, the Final Massacre film game, whatever it's called. It's almost like a Robert Rodriguez film. I understand what you're saying. Yeah,
very strongly color graded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then again, it didn't really fit the rest of the film, I will say, but it was a well shot sequence. I'll give it that, and it was stylized. I don't know if it made narrative sense.
Well, that's what makes me believe, though, because it is stylized, whether it actually happened.
Could be. But I think it did. You always shoot in the head or stop its head. Was Horror 101, yes. Yeah. I mean, especially where you've had films that, you know, like Cabin in the Woods, where they address the tropes that you have in these things. It's one of these things where you just can't get away with it now. With in the internet age, you just can't get away with it now. Okay. The youngest Strode lost her father in age 18. Her mother kills, and I'm predicting that she loses her grandmother, Laurie, in the second act of Ends, thus turning into a soul destroyer of the Myers.
Oh, no.
Wow.
What do we think of this theory?
That sounds awful.
I actually was thinking they were going to go that way.
Yeah. But it does sound awful.
We touched on it earlier. I do think they want to make that actress the face of the franchise, which is why they opted to kill the mother and not her or Laurie. I don't know if they'll kill Laurie because they've already killed Laurie in previous, canons. So I don't know if they'll do that again, to be honest with you. But I reckon they'll sideline her, or at the very least, she'll be like a kind of like, if, for example, this continues after Halloween Kills, Laurie could still exist. But I mean, they might kill her. But I don't know. I think that she might end up still being in the background, but maybe not the kind of like the central character.
She's just going to keep loading up her granddaughter with weapons.
Well, she's going to be like, she'll be like the granddaughter's going to be like the sort of Sarah Connor of the franchise.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying as well. Yeah.
Sarah Connor. But I mean, I said
Sarah Connor.
He
does a great one there, Jeff.
I do think they're kind of setting it up to the phrase, the fate of the franchise. I mean, they did try with the Rob Zombie ones, because it was like Scout Taylor Compton, wasn't it? A lot younger actress playing kind of Laurie Strode, I think, but obviously that only lasted two movies. But
can I just say,
that's
being
right.
Full pervert here, she's good looking.
She always plays teenagers, but she's actually in her mid-30s, that woman.
Yeah, she's a great looking actress.
So I reviewed her in a couple of other films.
Oh, wow.
She always plays teenagers, and she's like in her mid-30s.
Sherry Moon, on the other hand, she can go to hell. I cannot stand any movie she's in. She's awful.
She only has work because of nepotism.
Yeah, she's just a screaming banshee who can't act.
I've never watched a Rob Zombie film, believe it or not. White Zombie, with a little side note here. White Zombie, his band before he did solo. I loved it. It was my favourite band, but I've never watched a Rob Zombie film.
House of 1,000 Corpses is fun.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun. But if you do want to watch any of his films, I would recommend that. It's just a lot of fun.
I will one day, but there's such a big lot of films to get through. Killing Laurie is like killing Sidney Prescott in Scream. Well, they might do that. They might do that in the next Scream film.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of Scream? Because I have a very love relationship with the first Scream. I think it's great.
Yes, I mean because I said before I'm not a huge fan of slashers. If they try something different, if they try and it's not just a kind of like run of the mill, they're trying something a little different, I'm more interested. So when that first Scream came out, that was really the first meta kind of film in many ways, it's kind of like, so that I enjoyed. I mean, I think the originality has got lost as the franchise has gone on. That first one, even though it's a slasher film, like I said, it ultimately ends, the nuts and bolts is kind of a typical slasher film, but I like the kind of the originality that it did bring. But Sidney Prescott, okay, I'm not really a Final Girl fan either, if I'm honest. I think that's a trait that annoys me, but but yeah,
it was a big deal at the time. Look, at the time, it was a big deal. You got Neve Campbell, you got Drew Barrymore, Courtney Cox coming off Friends, David Arquette coming off God knows what. Introducing Skeet Ulrich and the other guy whose name I can't remember, Matthew Lillard. Like, this was a big movie at the time. So it was, having her as the final girl was kind of a big thing. But so she's in the new one, isn't she?
Yeah,
she's in part 5.
I think they all are.
When you say all are, you just mean her, Gail Weathers and her husband, and Dewey.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, all the main sort of surviving, big actors essentially.
I did see in the trailer they were doing some kind of rip-off of the opening scene of the first movie. I tend to avoid watching trailers nowadays for movies I want to see.
I don't watch many, to be honest. I don't know if I'm not that worried about Scream. I think I have seen all the Scream films, actually, to be fair. I've only ever watched them once, so it's kind of like it's not something I'll necessarily have a lot of rewatchability, for me at least. Beat by Shane, Laurie is going to be like Whistler from Blade. Yeah, kind of like a mentor role, because she's going to be too old. The character's simply going to be too old to be able to do anything. Kind of like a Yoda Kenobi role kind of thing.
Now, I know you haven't seen Halloween 6, but it reminds me of Donald Pleasance's role in that because it was shot just before he passed away. So he was old and frail. And all he does is kind of sit in this locked room and laugh all the time and talk about how Michael is coming. And that's how I'm picturing Laurie. She's just going to be
to get us.
Yes, to get us. That crazy laugh that he's got, Jeff, in the movie. You can tell he's just an old guy losing his marbles. That's just going to be Laurie.
I mean,
by the way, I love
doubles. I mean, like if they're making an Indiana Jones film when he's
absolutely
in his 80s or whatever, we're meant to believe he's still an action hero. I'm sure they can use a body double to kind of make Laurie Strode be a bit more active. But in a way, I'm glad that here's one thing I did like. I'm glad that in this movie, I'm glad that Laurie Strode got injured and it wasn't just like, oh, she's just recovered. Because that's a trope in a lot of horror films. Oh, someone gets stabbed or they get shot, but they're right back up again. Especially someone of advancing years. Mm-hmm. It's not, I actually quite like that. Even though it did mean that Laurie Strode was sidelined, I appreciated more of the realistic depiction of wounds. And here's another quick one. I like just a little bit of a segue here in war films, right? We often see people get killed off in war films, but very few people get injured. But in actual fact, far more people got injured in, for example, like Vietnam, than they got killed, if that makes sense. So it stands to reason that when you have a violent situation, more people are going to get injured rather than killed. And in a lot of these films, you very rarely see people with injuries and then survive. It does happen, but not often. So I quite like it that we have people who are just injured but not killed. Because it makes sense. It's just more realistic, and we have the sheriff as well, also injured. So I like that kind of a little bit more of a realistic depiction of someone. It's one of the things that really bugs me. Someone gets stabbed in a film, and they instantly die. It's not how it works.
Yeah. The only thing I could think of is every time someone got admitted to the hospital, all I'm thinking about is the American healthcare system and how expensive that little stab wound's going to be.
No, I'm fine. It's just a scratch.
Exactly, it's just a scratch. But she does get patched up. Wound. It's a flesh wound. She gets patched up. She shoots herself with morphine.
Yeah.
But then her injury reopens when she gets hit again.
Yeah.
So
which is it's a bit more realistic. It's kind of she's still suffering from it. She's not going to bounce back. So that I kind of liked. Alex says, I think we're still talking about Scream here. She loves the first and the fourth film.
Don't remember the fourth film. What is the fourth film?
That was 6 or 7 years ago, I think, wasn't it?
Oh, good Lord. Oh. Stu gets... Yeah, Stu's dead. Oh, come on, man. Come on, man. No. By the way, Alex, I like the fact that you're putting the letter U in rumors. So you're spelling the words correctly.
The English way.
Excellent.
Proper English.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Myers.
What a great question.
As in.
Thank you, Michael.
Oh yeah.
That's in Austin Powers.
No, I know what Michael's saying. Michael's a friend of mine. So hello, Michael. Thank you for joining the chat. I like the idea of him being superhuman, but us never being explained. That's it. I don't want to know why he's superhuman. Because there's mystery behind it. It's like the unexplainable stories of monsters under your bed or monsters in the cupboard.
Right.
There doesn't need to be a backstory.
Can I have a rebuttal on that?
Of course you can. No, Leo, it's your show. You know you can't.
I kind of agree with you, but I think it needs to have a scene where they say why isn't he dying? I think there needs to be some sort of reaction from people who just can't understand how he's not dead, and they don't have to explain. I agree with you there, but I think you have to address it. So that in universe, in the narrative, for me, if you're going to make him kind of superhuman, they can't just not say anything about it. Why? People have got to say, I don't understand. He's been shot, stabbed 700 times. Why is he not dead? And then I don't know. It just doesn't make any sense. And then just carry on with it.
But this is where we go around the circle, Leo, and we go cut off his fucking head.
Yeah.
This is the bit where you get to that bit. Now, if he's superhuman, can he be superhuman without his head?
Well, that goes back to, can you kill a werewolf if you blow him up? Well, in Monster Squad. Probably can, But yeah, I mean, it's like, again, it's that sort of same thing in the vampire mythology, isn't it? You can chop off their head and then that will kill them. But yeah, I think they kind of have to make him somewhat more than human now. And I don't think you necessarily have to explain it, but I do think you have to address it, is my thought. What about you guys?
Yeah.
Would you rather nothing, Dan, or just don't mention it at all?
Well, remember, the whole point of the Halloween franchise started with America's fear of the serial killer, the unknown, the person who lurks in the shadows, right? So it always started off as mystery, and it's continued as mystery. Now, they've tried to explain why he's superhuman. They've tried to explain that it's part of a druid ceremony, that he has long-tied links to all of these ancient cults, all that kind of bull dust, right? It didn't make sense. None of that stuff ever made sense, even though I love the film. It made no sense. The fact that he is just he's not even a zombie. The fact that he is just superhuman, it doesn't bother me. It really doesn't bother me. I don't need it explained. Jason makes no sense to me, and it's weird because I love Friday the 13th. He makes no sense. But Michael, I don't need it to make sense.
Jason,
I don't know that makes
sense. Away with it a bit
True.
more because his films aren't as grounded.
You
know what I mean?
I mean, the Doctor eats his heart in part 9 and turns into the new Jason. I mean, let's get it.
He's got super soldier serum, like Captain America.
Michael, you're watching the wrong franchise. It's not the Avengers.
He's a scary Captain America. Yeah. I got a question for you. What did you think of showing his kind of face? So we see brief kind of shots of his kind of face. What do we think of that? Like, more than I thought they were going to be
I'm
honest.
okay with that.
It has no impact for me.
No? Do you not think it kind of takes away the mystery a little bit?
It only would take...
It's happened before in the franchise.
Yeah, it has happened before. It would only take away the mystery if we knew who the character was. If we knew who that face was, then, yeah, there's a mystery. Showing his face just... No, it's no impact to me.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I think they shouldn't have showed it or just kept it really... I mean, it wasn't like a prolonged shot, but it was like, you got a reasonable look, I think. If you could freeze frame it, you would see pretty much the actor that was playing it.
But then it comes down to it. So who is it? So you would then go, well, I have no... My life is...
boy.
Yeah, but I have no... my life is not better knowing who that face was, because at no time throughout the movie am I shown faces of who this person is, that when the mask comes off, I can make that link and go, oh, right, that's who it is, right? It doesn't happen.
Speaking of faces, have you ever seen an interview with William Shatner where he addresses the mask?
No.
Yeah, I watched one because obviously they were interviewing about him going in space, and someone asked him about what do you think about them using William Shatner mask and stuff, and it was like, well, they just apparently just went into a shop, like a Halloween shop, and someone just said go and grab a mask, and they just bought that, and it was like
it's a great story,
but he doesn't get royalties apparently. So.
It's great mythology, and it's just like a Jason mask. Like the fact that we know that Kane Hodder played Jason for 4 movies, right? It's actually it's still not impactful if Kane never showed his face. Now we've seen Jason's face a few times in Halloween movies, and he's always this disfigured, ugly boy. So we know under the mask, there's nothing worth looking at. I don't, and again, like I said, I'm just not getting it with Michael. And in any masked character, it only was impactful in Scream because we knew who they were. It meant something.
Fair enough. Let's talk about what we did like. Jeff, what did you enjoy about the film?
Well, obviously the John Carpenter sound. I think he did the soundtrack again, didn't he? Carpenter.
It's based on his soundtrack.
I think he did, right? Yeah, obviously. Yeah. I think he did the one
He
for
was a
2018
producer
one. I
as
don't
well,
know if
wasn't he?
this one. Yeah, he was a producer. Yeah. So I like the score. I like the callbacks to the original films. With obviously, like I said, the kills. I really like scam. I know it wasn't CGI. I think it was like a lookalike or something. But I really like that. The Donald Pleasance cameo, or the Loomis cameo, I should say. Yeah, just overall the brutality and the kills and the gore.
What was
Those
your
were
favourite
obviously
kill?
the highlights of the film.
What was your favourite kill, both of you?
Stairway kill.
The what?
Which one?
The stairway kill.
I still miss what you said there, Jeff.
Yeah.
The stairway kill.
Oh,
Stairway
yes. Yes. That is,
Yeah.
especially the finale where he just cracks the neck. I actually like the bit where he grabs the fluoro light, smashes it, and then shoves it in the neck.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
I like that same
the light
scene,
bulb.
but it's
Yeah.
it's the husband I like. And to be fair, he's already dead. But the bit where he's just stabbing the knife
corpse
goes back. So yeah, he's already dead. But that, to me, that's a continuation of the same victim. But it was because that was just so brutal. You know, you're mutilating like an old man. You're just there mutilating it. And to me, that was the most violent.
Just testing the knives. Yeah.
Yeah. And she was just like looking on, and just thinking, "Oh man, you know, that was harsh beans."
He broke my drone. That's what she was thinking.
Let me ask you a question. What do we think about the confrontation in the car with the four of them, where we've got the
I was going to mention that.
Got them. What do we think
That's
about that?
bullshit. Why do you shoot out every pane of glass? Sorry, Jeff, what was that?
No, the assistants of Dr. Lewis, you are. Yeah.
Are you using mobile internet, Jeff?
No, I actually got a internet cable connected, but apparently the connection is just too bad.
Fair enough. What did you think of the car scene, Jeff? What was your thoughts on that that sequence where you've got the four? It's like the doctor and the nurse, and I think it's like the two returning characters. They kind of, you know, they all basically get killed off apart from them.
Of Loomis.
No, Loomis wasn't there. If this wasn't the flashback sequence we're talking
the assistant of Loomis.
Oh, the nurse. Yeah, he's talking about the nurse
in the first film.
Yeah.
The nurse. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Sorry, the internet's only cutting out, and all we're hearing is Loomis. Sorry, Jeff.
Oh,
yeah,
that's okay.
Yeah, what did you think of it then, Dan?
I don't understand why they kept shooting out all the glass.
Yeah,
that just made no sense. And my wife's saying to me, "Why aren't they getting in the car and driving off?" Valid point.
Or calling, or calling for help or anything like that. It's just
calling Tommy, like Tommy asked them to.
That sequence was fairly. I mean, it wasn't. It was shot okay, but I think it was the writing in it was poor, and I mean, people can't shoot for toffee in this movie. It was. I mean, I suppose it's somewhat, somewhat realistic, but come on, it was like he's standing right there. I don't know.
She'd run out of bullets by that point, Leo, where she had him dead to right.
Have you watched the Red Letter Media review? They made an interesting point. So in that flashback sequence, when the guy's like, they got the police hostage. He's got, he's strangling, and the other one's there with a gun. It goes that Michael Myers isn't holding a gun or a knife. Why doesn't the other cop just go right up to him and go like it's not as if he's going to kill him in a second. He's strangling him. So why doesn't the other cop just go right up to his head with a gun and like simply he doesn't need to kind of do it from a distance. He doesn't have like a weapon that's going to kill the other kind of cop. So
they emphasize. Kind of like, yeah, sorry, no.
So yeah, it's just a kind of like it's the attention to detail, basically.
See, in that bit, I'm going to disagree because the emphasis there was that he was a rookie cop who didn't really have any experience. He wouldn't have known to do that. And if anything, the guy who was holding him hostage should have yelled him out rather than just saying, yelling out to shoot him. You should have actually given him a better direction. So I'm going to disagree on Red Letter Media on that.
That's a fair comeback. Alex says she genuinely thought he was testing the knives. It's frustrating that there's stupid things in the horror films. Yeah, it could be one that maybe it was that, but it was just as like I think he was just playing with him, but maybe he was selecting a nice knife for himself.
But here's the thing: when you address all the stupid things in horror movies, right, and make a film that explicitly addresses them, such as Scream, such as Cabin in the Woods, what you end up with is you end up with a comedy or a parody, because there are some things that you just need to generally suspend disbelief in order for the film to actually exist. We could see in Scream that Stu and the other guy couldn't survive when they started stabbing each other to make it look realistic. Like, he's actually going, this hurts. I'm actually dying here, man. They give you that kind of emphasis of when you keep stabbing the bad guy, he's actually going to feel pain. And Scream was a comedy horror. Like, don't get me wrong, it had elements of comedy in it to kind of soften its impact up. But there's no real way to make a foolproof, CinemaSin-free horror film and keep it serious. I don't think it can be done.
No. Yeah, it all depends, I think, on the the world that you're trying to create. Obviously, you do have to have some type of any film, really, even biopics, you have to have some type of realization that it's a narrative. You need a narrative flow in certain points, but I think you can there's levels of what you can get away with. I think depending on how seriously the subject is. So Jeff, what would you score it out of 10? Because we'll probably have to kind of wrap it up. Yeah. It's kind of getting a little late here. What would you score it out of 10? Would you say?
Out of 10, I would probably give it a 6.5 out of 10, maybe up to a 7. That would be about the score.
What would you score it then?
It gets a 7 for its brutality. Very, very unique kills in it.
Yeah, and I scored it a 6, and I did enjoy it. I just want to have one last thing before we go, right? And I want speculation for the next film. We know it's going to be a 4-year jump. Any speculation?
Yeah.
I'll just reiterate what I said earlier on. I think that they are going to make inroads where Michael will, despite them saying he's going to, he doesn't want anything personally to do with Laurie Strode. It was just circumstance. I think that they'll make it so he does in this film. So he's showing emotion out of all these years. He's like, right, I'm going to target this family. Like Jaws of Revenge. So
the shark actually went after the family, did it?
I think it's like Alex said earlier on. It's plausible. I think that Laurie Strode and Malcolm might kill each other. I think that's probably plausible.
The only way I can see that happening is if Laurie actually decapitates. Yeah, if Laurie decapitates him, she has to. If there's no decapitation, Michael's not dead.
But will that happen? Do you think?
Fair enough. Yeah.
Will it happen? Will Michael die properly at the end of the next film? Yes or no? No.
I don't think they know. They don't know how to kill him. Yeah. Thanks, Jeff. Thank you. No. They don't know how to kill him.
I'll say yes, he will. Just to be
fair enough. Well, we're going to do this same live chat in a year's time and see how we both win.
I remember it's recorded on the internet now, so we can go back and see who was right. All right, guys, just give yourselves a bit of a where can people find you and everything.
You can try and find me on YouTube, but I'm going through a bit of a shuffle right now with content, so maybe it's not the best time to kind of look for my stuff right now. Yeah.
And Jeff?
Well, you can find me at the name right down there. Add in on the YouTube search bar, and it will come up, and you will find content regarding action films and 80s stuff guys, and you just name it, everything having to do with action films, horror films as well. And you'll find me there, and you will find some content that some of you might enjoy, hopefully.
Can I ask Jeff a quick question, please, Leo?
Go for it. Yeah.
Is that moustache an homage?
Yes.
Beautiful.
Go ahead, Dan.
Beautiful.
Jeff's actually he's doing a review for me.
Yeah, it actually is. It actually is.
Jeff's doing a review for me for this movie with a Bronson lookalike. I don't know if you're familiar with a guy called Robert Bronzy. There's like this guy called Robert Bronzy. And he's like
that's right.
An image of Bronson, and he's
Robert
gone to
Bronzy,
start making films. And Jeff there is doing his first review for the channel, on my channel.
Look forward to seeing it, Jeff. It's an epic mo.
All right, then, guys. Well, thank you for joining me this evening and this morning for you, Dan. Go and have some breakfast.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Jeff and I are probably going to go straight to bed.
Thanks, fellas. It's been a lot of fun.
All right, guys. See you later. Bye. And thank you to everyone for watching.
Most likely, yeah.
Take care, everyone.
See you later.